Awesome. I'm so excited to have Mark on today, my occasional workout buddy, mentor, and good friend. Always a pleasure to talk to. Mark, thanks so much for coming on.
Yeah, absolutely. I know that you have been doing these podcasts for a minute now, and so I'm just really honored to basically participate in one.
Yeah. Mark is such a wealth of knowledge. I always pull him in whenever I have a client that has some kind of movement dysfunction that I might not have the answer and I need to pull in the big guns. Then I'll grab Mark to come in and kind of help me figure it out. And he's so generous with his time and knowledge. So yeah, it's a real pleasure to have him as a buddy. So Mark, kind of tell everybody, what are you working on right now? What's happening in your life that's really important to you?
Right now, I am juggling a couple of things. Actually earlier today, I just registered for my first round of grad school classes. So I will be at 38 going
Awesome.
back to school to just keep that going. Um, I'm just working with my clients. I am
Yeah.
teaching brand new semester for National Personal Training Institute. So I'm having a really good time putting my hands in a couple of different areas and see what happens.
Totally. So the really cool thing is that growth mindset is really important. This is something that we're always both talking about with our clients,
Yeah.
and the desire to continue learning and growing. So I think it's really cool. I don't even think it doesn't matter what age you're going to school. It really has no. It's just a testament to the fact that you want to continue bringing more to your clients, right, and more to the people who work with you, because you continue to invest in yourself, right? You have more to give.
Yeah, very much so. I mean, my answer to this is going to be a little biased because I work in education, and so I'm very kind of like pro continued learning.
Mm-hmm.
And apart just for what we do as being personal trainers, like we practice a craft where there are so many different approaches to, performing assessments, writing a program, and then coaching it, that if a person is not, or if a trainer is not continuing to refine their knowledge and refine their expertise,
Mm-hmm.
they tend to kind of get lost in the past because there's just a lot of new research that's always kind of unfolding.
Right.
For me, if I feel like I am just kind of showing up with my current level of knowledge, and even though when I'm practicing with what I know, I get to learn little bits, at some point I feel stale. And
Mm-hmm.
so I'm really happy to just, devote myself for the next year with graduate level studies because it's just going to help kind of feed my soul a little bit. So I'm not
Right.
trying to do it just from, like trainers are expected to always be learning. If I'm not continuing to learn, I just feel like I'm really stale, and that's not a great feeling.
Totally. And you also want to model the behavior for your clients that you want them to be engaging in, right? So if I'm working with my clients on mindset and I'm working with my clients around letting go of negative body image beliefs, I can't stand in front of the mirror and be like, oh, I look bloated today, or oh, I look ugly today, or, I can't be modeling an opposite behavior of what I want my clients to be like gleaning from me. And so you kind of have to walk that walk, right? You're telling your trainers that you're working with, your students, your clients, you're telling them, I want you to have a growth mindset. I want you to put yourself in uncomfortable positions so that you can continue growing in all the ways. We have to be willing to do that ourselves, which is kind of hard, right? You have to take the medicine that you're prescribing.
Yeah, I think it's really it's kind of a double-edged sword, um, in a way that we as trainers, we provide a service to people.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We can't feed them. We can't do the exercise for them, but what we can do is kind of like create a path for them to go
Mm-hmm.
down, and then kind of like support them and hold them accountable to doing the things that they want to do. But listen, if I have a plumber, and my plumber is just bragging about the continued education that he just did to like understand the differences between like copper and titanium piping, I
Mm-hmm.
generally don't really care. I'm like, hey man, can you fix the problem or not? If my
Right.
mechanic is just nerding out on how he just learned about this different type of a transmission or carburetor, I'm like, I mean, can you just do the job for me like at a good
Right.
price? Like, I don't
Right.
really need those people providing a service to inspire me.
Right.
However, when we sign up as personal trainers,
Mm-hmm.
it's to some degree we are like signing a contract stating that we can't really let ourselves go
Right.
because we have this responsibility to, as you said, uh, you know, be good models for the
Right.
people that are kind of like signing up to be around us. And some
Mm-hmm.
trainers very much understand this and they're very excited to basically live that life and walk that talk, or walk that
Right.
walk and talk that talk.
Mm-hmm.
But other people, you know, understandably, they may say one thing and then do another, and every industry has that, but that's not
Right.
something that you and I are interested in.
Right. Well, the thing too is like when you work with a diverse set of people, like I work with a lot of moms, and this is the thing that I'm trying to model for them so that they can model it for their kids. I mean, that's the
Yeah,
hardest part about being in relationship with anybody, but especially people like little people that you have to grow them. They're not just going to do what you say. They're going to do what you do.
yeah.
And so the thing, and you could even apply this to like partners, right? If you tell your partner, you need to be more kind to me, or you need to be more calm when you talk to me, right? Like you
As
have
you're
to model that
yelling at that
behavior.
person about it, yeah,
Yes,
it's ironic.
yes,
Yeah.
exactly. So the thing is that it's like I have to show up and embody in myself first the traits that I want to like inspire in other people. And this really translates so much outside of the gym, right? If people can come into the gym and master some of these skills, now it can generalize into other settings and be like a really beautiful thing that supports growth in like many other areas that don't even have anything to do with fitness. When you first got into fitness, what was the motivation behind it, and how long have you been in the fitness industry?
I kind of came into this industry in a really weird way because I got in trouble. I got in trouble um, not working as I went to a gym with a friend of mine on a guest pass,
Mm-hmm.
something like 15 years ago, and I was showing him how to do an exercise, probably poorly. But
Mm-hmm.
because I was using my big boy voice, the manager from downstairs came up and he kicked me out, saying that we don't allow any outside trainers. I told him
Mm-hmm.
that I was not a trainer. I was just a dude on a guest pass, and he
Mm-hmm.
just offered me a job. I was, yeah, I was having kind of like, I was like 23, 24, something like that. So having my quarter
Mm-hmm.
life crisis
Yes.
and trying to get out of what I was doing previously, but didn't really know the avenue to do so. So when
Mm-hmm.
he pitched me, hey, well, would you like to work here? I kind of took some stock and I'm like, well, I'm familiar with the gym. I very much like exercise.
Mm-hmm.
This could be kind of cool. So, but I didn't really know what to expect.
Right.
Part of uh, being employed at this gym was, it was a 24-hour fitness, was I needed to be certified. And at the time,
Mm-hmm.
they had this like 5-day course in personal training. Like you would just go to some location, they would
Mm-hmm.
basically teach you some stuff out of a book for a couple of days,
Mm-hmm.
and then slammo
Mm-hmm.
bammo, you are a personal trainer.
Wow.
And during that course, um, I didn't know what to expect, but what
Mm-hmm.
was so cool was in this manual, it basically said this is the formal way to approach exercise.
Mm-hmm.
And, coming from just hanging out in the gym and kind of monkey see, monkey do, I always thought that
Right.
it was my responsibility to just crack the code of fitness. I did not know that there were like formal ways to do things. And
Mm-hmm.
so I've just been drinking from the fire hose of knowledge ever since. I just am really interested in the structure behind the chaos that is exercise.
Right. Why did you initially get into exercise? Like even before that?
I
Did you
was
grow up
like four.
like as an athlete or?
No, like I'm one of these trainers that I didn't grow up very athletic.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't experience like significant injury or trauma that I kind of got the bug through rehabilitation. I
Mm-hmm.
also was not significantly overweight and, lost the weight to do that. So like a lot of trainers, when they kind of get into these things, either they were athletic, they were significantly injured and then healed themselves, or, were
Mm-hmm.
rehabilitated, or they like lost a lot of weight and they want to pay it forward. I
Mm-hmm.
There was a YMCA on the way home from middle school that I would walk past all the time, and sometimes I would just go
Mhm.
there and hang out and just like burn some time. And in
Mhm.
this super crummy gym that just smelled like it needed a tetanus shot, there were just
Mhm.
these like, middle-aged dudes doing resistance training, and they had like big muscles and stuff. And I'm
Mhm.
like a 5'3" skinny kid, and so I thought that this is like one thing that I could do to like kind of
Mhm.
call it turn myself more into like a man, because I was
Right.
13, 14 at the time, and I just
Mhm.
saw it as being really, really masculine and hanging
Right.
around with dudes and that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So you were like, okay, I'm gonna bulk up, and then I'm gonna get all the babes, and then things are gonna be good.
Yeah, I want to say that one of the reasons I wanted to get like muscles and stuff was to get girls.
Mhm.
I think there's probably, I mean, just being like a 14-year-old boy, like I'm sure that was there, but more so
Right.
in my mind, I think I was really looking for some type of an outlet with physical activity.
Mhm.
I did some sports kind of growing up, like AYSO
Mhm.
soccer and things like that, but
Mhm.
never really felt connected to team sports. I didn't have great field
Right.
awareness. I didn't have any coaches that actually kind of like supported me to learn some of this stuff. Just had a
Mhm.
lot of coaches that leaned on the kids that were like quote unquote natural. So I
Right.
actually kind
Right.
of identified a little bit not being athletic just because like, oh, I can't do these things. But with like
Right.
resistance training, it was just an individual thing. Like I didn't have to
Yes.
lean on like anybody else's expertise. I could just kind of
Right.
figure it out myself. So that's
Yes.
what kind of really kind of attracted me to exercise initially. Yeah.
That's one of the things that I love about resistance training is that it does not matter how old you are. It does not matter if you are overweight, if you are naturally larger bodied, if you are smaller bodied, if you are a kid. There's really anybody can do it at any fitness level, right? Not anybody can do burpees, not anybody can run, not anybody can ride a bike. All these things are not accessible to everyone, but resistance training is accessible to everybody, and which is amazing, right? Anybody can come in and do it and feel competent, like lifting a little bit of weight. How has your so like initially you got into training to feel more masculine, right? To feel more manly. Is that the
Yeah.
reason that you continue to do resistance training today, or how has your sort of feeling towards this changed over the span?
Oh man, like there has been a pretty significant arc from me being, I should hope there's been an arc from going from like 14 to 38, but
Right.
the biggest things now, or if I were kind of like to draw a comparison, and that's a really great question because I have to like think about this a little bit. But initially it was kind of like what's going on and what's kind of the rules of the road with like reps and sets and how do I choose that exercise for that reason, just kind of like trying to understand what was happening. And
Mm-hmm.
then 15, 16, 17, just full bro. I don't think I like ever did legs. I think like all I did was just bench and eat Doritos with my friends in the gym. Like it was just
Yes.
stereotypical, stuff
Yes.
like that. And it wasn't until I actually got certified as a trainer and got a job as a trainer that
Mm-hmm.
my philosophy on the utility of exercise generally for me really started to change, where
Right.
there was kind of like a functional purpose to exercise,
Mm-hmm.
rather than rather than just kind of like targeting muscle groups to just make muscles bigger. I wanted to like make
Right.
my body work better.
Right.
But now that I think about it, um, there is a part of me that is just curious about things. Like I just
Mm-hmm.
wonder about stuff. I have a pretty good sense of intellectual curiosity, and even though I was just a bro back then,
Mm-hmm.
just bicep curls for just ever until it just hurt.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I always kind of wondered, like I would take these moments in the gym, even though I'm like crushing my biceps or like trying to build up my delts or just something like that. I'd take these moments and like look around and I'd see somebody over off in the distance like doing legs, something like that, and see somebody else like doing arms, and I'd see everybody that was like doing something, but I
Mm-hmm.
always kind of like wondered like, but what is my body supposed to do? I know that
Right.
people are like doing these exercises, but I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
what is my body like as a tool supposed to do? And I didn't have any of
Mm-hmm.
those answers until like way later on started to learn like the exercise science part of things, and
Right.
going from how do I select an exercise to challenge my muscles to how do I make my arms work better, or how do I
Right.
make my activities of daily living better. It
Mm-hmm.
was just like this really big switch for me.
Yeah, and that's where we really sort of align is that my focus really, when I'm working with women is on helping them be more strong and more capable in the world, right? And
Yeah.
less focus on the aesthetics of fitness. I think this
Which is
heavy focus
hard to
on,
get out of because the aesthetics of
yes,
fitness just gets pumped. That's like a
yeah,
big thing.
that's a huge thing. And I think that people sort of shy away, especially people who are larger bodied or people who are on a health journey, shy away from fitness or trainers or gyms because they think, that's not an aesthetic that I'm ever going to reach, right? I'm never going to get there. And so like that kind of behavior isn't good for like it isn't right for me. I have a larger body. I've always had a larger body. I'm tired of fighting with my body and I'm just going to like let it go. Like fuck it, whatever, it is what it is. And so then people believe, well, if the only reason to do it is aesthetics and I'm not interested in that, there's no reason to do it. And
Yeah.
you kind of came to this conclusion throughout your own journey of like, there's a bigger reason to do it, which is to make your body more functional and more capable in just like in all the other parts of your life that have nothing to do with the gym and nothing to do with your body, but just like your ability to function in the world comfortably.
Yeah. Now, where, in your opinion, where does vanity come in? Because there could be, as I just said, like our industry, and you go on social media and stuff like that. There's obviously an aesthetic drive that just
Mm-hmm.
hits like just biologically really, really deep. It's like, oh, I'm gonna
Yeah.
exercise and that'll help me procreate. Like you just keep going that deep.
Right.
That's where it is. But
Yeah.
it's also important that somebody like is kind of attracted to themselves. So
Yes.
where do you say like this line of vanity can go from, or pursuit of vanity can go from like, hey, this is a good thing to maybe a not good thing? Like where's that line for you?
Yeah, so I think that it crosses over into being not good when it starts to impact other areas of your life that are actually really good for you and contribute to your well-being. So like when you look at measures of well-being and like there's
Yeah.
there's six main measures and they have to do with like feeling connected to people, engaging in meaningful behavior, feeling like you have a purpose, having healthy leisure activities. When you see people who are super shredded and it's like gym, hashtag hustle, hashtag no pain, no gain, like that sort of mentality, other things have to suffer, right? If you're going to contribute
Yeah.
so much bandwidth to this one thing, you only have so much energy, you only have so much time in the day. Other things are not going to get the kind of like energy and time that they deserve as well, right? So like when I was doing bodybuilding, and tracking all my macros. I couldn't go out to ice cream with the kids. I was eating separate meals from the kids. If I was eating something and the boys were like, "Oh, that looks good. Can I have a bite?" I would like snarl at them like Gollum with the ring, like I already weighed it. Like I was an insane person, and my mental health suffered. I developed an eating disorder. So for me, it really starts to be impactful when you lose so many things. Like what's the point of this? What's the point of, like you're saying, procreate? Why do we want to procreate? Well, you believe like procreation will make me happy. I'll be a part of a community. I'm a part of the social circle. So ultimately, like the thing that's meant to get you happiness becomes the thing that keeps you from your happiness.
Yeah.
And I kind of see that as being the spot that, where I want people to kind of look at, what do you think this is going to help you access? And is there a way to access that thing right now in this current body that you're in?
Yeah, and this is one of these, subjects within, like, call it as a coach when you're trying to support someone towards a better quality of life or a
Mhm.
life of less suffering, something big umbrella like
Mhm.
that, where
Mhm.
sometimes it's hard if somebody comes in and they're, let's just, they're overweight, okay? And however
Mhm.
that is, whatever that means, things like that. So they're overweight.
Mhm. Mhm.
And they don't like that they're overweight.
Mhm.
They don't like it. And they were like,
Mhm.
okay, I would like to lose weight. And on one end, perhaps as a coach, I could be like, okay, this is how we can go ahead and help you lose weight, thus
Mhm.
helping somebody manifest a little more happiness. Or do I say, well, what's wrong with being a little bit overweight right now? It's like, well,
Mhm.
do I want to then, support someone to be happy with how they look right now and not lose weight? It's like, I
Mhm.
wonder how I can best support someone
Mhm.
with the path that should lead them to being happier or more self
Mhm.
accepting? Or should
Mhm.
I coach them to be more self accepting in their current weight? And
Mhm.
I kind of struggle in these trainer existential questions. I mean, have you kind of
Right.
had these moments too on like, how do I best coach someone if these two options kind of interfere with each other?
Yeah, I think they kind of look like they interfere with each other, but I don't see it that way. I think that so like someone comes in and they say I'm over, I want to lose weight. My question is why? What do you
Yep.
want to access? Okay, I want to feel more confident. Okay, well that might have nothing to do with your weight. I mean, part of that is going to be mindset. We'll work on that together. Part of that is feeling more capable. We're going to work on that through strength training. Part of that is feeling generally more fit and like comfortable in your body. Like you don't feel so heavy, you don't feel so fatigued. Again, we're going to work on that with strength training. Like all of this has very little to do with the actual number on the scale and more to do with how you feel inside of your body. So I see them like you can love your body and you can love yourself and you can still and it's a reason to engage in health behavior. Not I'm going to engage in health behavior in order to access self-acceptance, but I am self-accepting right now today and because I love myself so much, how could I treat myself any other way? Like when you love your kids, you feed them well. You want them to have balanced food. You want them to get some sunshine on their face. You do the same thing for yourself, but it's not coming from a place of like you are a piece of shit and so you need to work out to be loved. It's more like I love this body and I want it to last and be functional for as long as I can. And that's why I'm going to engage in this health behavior. And you can also love yourself exactly as you are and want to grow some skill. Like, oh, I want to increase my lifts. I want to get stronger. It doesn't mean that you don't accept yourself as you are, but it does mean that there's like humans are meant to continue to grow, right? Like we're meant to continue to be pushing ourselves and developing, and there's like an inherent need for that.
In response a little bit to kind of like what you were saying, I could definitely see my the nuance that you described between like how does one best support if the change if the change in aesthetics or performance is is an avenue or a proxy for self acceptance.
Mhm.
Yes, we want someone to enjoy their body's transformation and change towards the person that they right self actualize a little bit better,
Mhm.
um,
Mhm.
but they don't have to wait till to self love until they're like arrive at the
Right.
promised land. Hey, let's kind of start on some self
Right.
love and let's have this change in aesthetics, uh, be a manifestation of that as opposed to
Right.
the destination. Um,
Yes, yes. Or the entire focus is on this thing. And you can kind
yeah,
of feel, when you're working with somebody who has a really positive mindset, or when I first work with clients and they go out and they eat a big sushi dinner or something, and then they come to me and I'm like, "How's your nutrition?" And they'll say
sounds
things like,
amazing,
"Oh
by
my
the way.
gosh, I've been so bad," or "Oh, I suck," or whatever, right? Like the self-talk is really negative, and you
Yep.
can just feel that so much of their perception of themselves is so rigidly attached to their behavior
Yep.
versus like I love myself and I'm a human and my behavior might ebb and flow and that's normal and natural. There's this feeling like if I made a mistake, I'm a piece of crap, right? And so as I work with my clients, there starts to be some lightness around how they view themselves, right? They see behavior just as data instead of seeing it as like proof that they are a lazy, worthless human being. It's more just like, oh, okay, like I notice at the end of the day, I need a little bit more support around this. They give themselves more support. It's fine. So I think that the healthy versus unhealthy health journey, and when I say healthy versus unhealthy, I mean psychologically, has a lot to do with when I make a mistake, am I gentle and kind with myself, or am I like so angry and mad and there's so much self-loathing, and it's because it's like, oh, you idiot, you're never going to get to love yourself if you can't lock this down and fix this, versus I love myself now, so there can be a lightness around this behavior and I can be gentle with myself as I slowly shape my behavior over time.
Yeah, so I want to piggyback on this because this is another thing like I think about a lot, which is how lots of research shows that when people engage in structured activity, whether it's like resistance training in the gym or like
Hmm.
joining like a bocce league or something, just some type
Yeah.
of structured activity, it leads to a really wonderful feeling of satisfaction that
Hmm.
can't really be attained through other non-physical means. And so I wonder, how primal that is, where,
Hmm.
people can definitely, participate in commerce and make money or, perhaps like, volunteer with their time and get a certain satisfaction with that. So it's not just only satisfaction through
Hmm.
physical effort, but there is something just so primal where if someone is having a tough time uh, with themselves in conjunction with being sedentary, that once they
Hmm.
start moving and then setting intention to kind of challenge themselves with moving, it doesn't have to be crazy, but
Right.
just an intention with moving, and then they do it,
Hmm.
there's just some feeling that we get, which is really validating. I mean, what do you,
Right.
like, what are your thoughts on that? Where do you think that, where that comes from, that satisfaction through structured effort?
Yeah, I think it's a couple things. I think we're made to be challenged. I think that humans have a desire to keep pushing and doing a hard thing and having that feeling of mastery around that. I also feel like when you do a structured activity, that can get you access to other things that are really valuable to you, like
Yeah.
connection, community, a sense of belonging, right? And those things can be so motivating and so validating for so many people. And just I think the general feeling of like what happens to your brain when you exercise, right? Like you get flooded with a lot of positive brain, like a lot of brain chemicals that make you feel really good. So exercise is paired with all of these beautiful things. And I think the problem is that people don't view necessarily things like bocce or like dance, like fun, just like loose dance, right? Like everything feels like it has to be competitive and it has to be very like aesthetically driven, like aesthetic results driven. And I think that when my clients, talk about like results, like what are results? And I think that we need to diversify the metrics that we're using to define results, because results don't just mean you weren't shredded and now you are, right? When I came out of my bodybuilding program, I was shredded, but I had an eating disorder. I had lost my period. My mental health was in the shitter.
Yeah,
And I
there's
was
a lot
completely
of
miserable, right?
things
I
that
had
fell
no
apart.
idea. Yes, for in service of this goal that I perceive to be quote unquote healthy, right? And so when I'm working with my clients, they might be like, "Oh, I don't feel like I'm getting results." And so the first thing I do is like, "Well, let's talk about results. What does that mean?" First of all, you're showing up 4, 5 days a week and being consistent. You've made a promise and you're keeping it to yourself. Like, how much confidence does that build when you know you're the kind of person that says you're going to do something and then you do it? Like that feels really good. You're
Yeah.
doing that consistently. You're being mindful about your nutrition. You're not beating yourself up about junk food. So now you're actually being more moderate. You're not binging anymore. Your lifts have gone up this much. Like people define results just as like, am I skinny yet? And that's such a superficial way to define results. And it's also so sad because honestly, why is that the measure? Why is that the yardstick that we're using to measure health or progress or results. Like there are so many rich, beautiful ways like that we can define results, and we're just going to use this one measure. Like you couldn't go on a roller coaster with your kids because you were over the weight limit, and now you can. Like, is there anything more beautiful than that, right? Or you used to think you were a piece of shit and now you know you're not. Like, how can any physical transformation mean more than that? So it's interesting that people are always pushing like these really physical results when the most meaningful results that my clients get and that I got for myself was all related to mindset and almost nothing related to how I look.
Yeah, I think there is something to say that there tends to be an emphasis on outcome goals relative to process
Yeah,
ones. Um,
right.
some reasons that I think that may be the case is some of the simple reasons is the outcome of winning a championship or,
Mm-hmm.
getting to your goal weight is where like all the fireworks are for people. It's got the bigness
Right.
that is that is quite noticeable. And just the bigness
Yeah.
of it, where the
Right.
process may seem too mundane to be
Yeah.
given credit to. Like
Right.
it's just too small. So why should I
Right.
give the same kind of gravity to a simple process like how well I can cut the vegetables for my salad, in terms of if someone wants to
Right.
make salads more and things like that, to then losing like
Yeah.
40 pounds. So it's hard for a lot of people
Right.
to equate that to. However, you've heard uh, covering a million miles takes really one step at a time.
Right.
And so there is this interesting predisposition that I think that human beings have to just not, to keep their eyes forward too far, and not really
Yeah.
look at like kind of what's going on along the way. However, when you look at like how people got
Right.
to where they're going, it was pretty much by
Yeah.
participating in process. So there's just a tragic
Yeah.
irony about that.
I know. Basically, it was learning how to cut the vegetables better and walking more. Right?
Yep.
I mean, like some of the most underrated things that you can do are the things that are going to be most impactful over decades. I mean,
Yeah.
that's what we're talking about here, right? Like a health journey can't just be something where you get super shredded for 6 months and now you have like damage to your bones because you weren't getting enough nutrients. I mean,
Just
it has to be
crushing it.
something
You were
that
just
like I'm
crushing it
looking at
and then
long-term behavior change. So my
unsustainable.
clients will be beating themselves up or I missed workouts last week. It's like, listen, you're going to be doing this for the next 40 years, or more. Like, is this really going to make a difference? No. Like, we're shaping our behavior 1% better every day. And so the focus is really on this like slow, sustainable process versus these big outcome goals. And the other interesting thing is if you talk to people where something big happens to them, like I won the championship or I won $1 million, how do they feel? Like, is their happiness elevated? Absolutely, for a couple weeks. And
Yeah.
then what happens? You go back down
Transient.
to your normal baseline
Yeah, your
level of
baseline.
happiness. Yes. So that's the thing is people are like, when I get skinny, I'm going to feel X, Y, and Z. And it's like, are you going to be excited that there are more clothes available to you? You can pick something off the rack? Yeah. But does that have more to do with like our shitty society not providing more options for larger bodied people? And once you acclimate to being able to pick clothes off the rack, are other insecurities just going to pop to the surface? Like, oh, now I have loose skin. Oh, now I can see more of my wrinkles. Oh, like there's always going to be a thing. And so at some point, it's like, when do I just decide that I'm enough as I am and stop chasing this like perfect aesthetic, which is white, thin, perfect hair, perfect eyes, perfect everything. Like, when are we just going to be like, oh, right, that's not what I'm going for. That's not the goal anymore, right? And I mean, at some point, do you feel like you've gotten there, or do you feel like you're still contending with that, just as a person in your own body?
For me, um, I mean,
Yeah, I mean,
I
because I'm focused on women, but men are swimming in this toxic water too.
I think it's very much the culture and kind of the expectations that gets marketed out of the fitness industry are very much in line with American core values of achievement. You come to this
Mm-hmm.
country, be in this country, make $1 million, make $1 billion, just
Mm-hmm.
achieve what you want, right? Pursue and achieve. And, so the industry, or the health and wellness industry, is going to be pushing their products and services for you to achieve an outcome and not often a
Mm-hmm.
process. And so I think a lot of that where, I agree there should be like a stronger sentiment on people participating in a process, and let
Mm-hmm.
the outcome be a byproduct of that, is just competing heavily with a lot of the marketing strategies that are just going to be out there in the world, that a person trying to participate in that outcome and learning from, is going to be subject to. And so that definitely creates a lot of friction where, I've worked with a lot of people, whether they were like students becoming personal trainers, or just, regular people of daily life that are trying to look to achieve something, on one
Mm-hmm.
sense, very much understand that it takes just consistent participation to see a change. But they
Mm-hmm.
still have, and I still have in my own way, this
Mm-hmm.
emotional, uh, just kind of connection, or almost obsession with like, what will life be like if I did have abs, or if I
Right.
if I did have some type of outcome. And so it's just
Yeah.
difficult on, trying to like marry those things together, but in a
Yeah.
way that is realistic for people. So yeah, I think it's very much
Right.
just how our industry pulls on the heartstrings of people
Yeah.
for, outcomes that require their products or services. And it can kind of very much
Right.
pull people away from the process that's required.
Yeah, and pull it and can pull them away from health, which is supposed to be the
Yeah.
whole point of this endeavor, right? I
Yeah.
mean, the industry will break your legs, but then sell you crutches. Like tell you all the things that's wrong with you and all the ways that you're ugly and no one will ever like you. Oh, and here's this package that I can sell to you that can like so you don't have to that doesn't have to be true for you. It's like, well, what if that just wasn't true for me? Now I don't have to, spend this money. That's the opposite of what the industry wants, right? So
Yeah.
it's a really toxic relationship where it's like, yeah, I'll make you feel like shit so I can then come in and be some kind of hero. I
Hmm.
think what you can do, like, so there's this question of what would life be like if I had abs. I can tell you right now, you'd be hungry. Your
Yeah.
life
Oh,
would
I
be
bet.
exactly
I
the same,
bet.
but you'd be hungry.
Yeah. I mean, people have asked
Really, no
me,
other difference.
totally. It's like, I'm in okay shape right now, but like I probably
Yeah.
couldn't compete to anything, but I feel
Hmm.
good and kind of like where I'm at. But people have just kind of asked me if I've ever been like, when was the last time I was like in the greatest shape of my life? And I'll kind of like describe where
Yeah.
I was, pretty much a brand new trainer. I had not a lot of money, so I wasn't eating a whole lot of food, so weight loss happened there. And
Right.
just kind of like exercising all the time because I was just like always in the gym, and fueled on, pre-workout and stuff. But I
Yes.
never felt worse. I never looked better, but I never felt worse. And so it is
Yeah.
just kind of
Yeah.
interesting, and I do find it kind of like small wins where, someone's going to come in, and people have, I know, kind of like come in and began working with you, and they have some, level of expectation on, I want to lose weight, I want to feel better, I want to be stronger. But then that
Hmm.
expectation that is worthwhile is probably also, muddied by, other expectations that just may not be feasible. And so
Right.
a big part of like our job is, why we kind of have to know to some degree like the sciences about these things, is so we can say, hey, listen, if
Hmm.
you want to lose weight, I think this is a fantastic idea. Based on what
Hmm.
you've said you are kind of willing and able to do, it may take six
Hmm.
months, assuming that things work
Right.
out perfectly the entire time. And I know that you
Right.
said you would like to lose all that weight in 30 days. So we have to
Right.
kind of say, all right, yeah, we can kind of do these things, but here's where these
Hmm.
expectations really are just not going to be realistic. And then this is a more
Right.
realistic way to kind of go about things. And then people are like, oh
Right.
shit, like you mean it's going to actually take like that much longer? It's like, oh man, maybe
Yeah.
I kind of don't want to do it. But those are real conversations that we have to have, because if
Yeah.
someone said, hey, listen, I want to lose a certain amount of weight, and I saw on the internet that's going to take 30 days. I saw somebody in, some before and after picture that they were able to do this in
Right.
30 days. And we're like, and if we
Right.
said yes, that's a problem, because the moment somebody purchases training with you, that is the beginning of the relationship. And so if we were
Yeah.
not, if we just agreed to a false expectation or unrealistic expectation that they had, we're just straight up setting ourselves up for disaster. But if we kind of clear it up
Right.
and say, hey, listen, it's going to take like 3 times longer than you anticipate. I know you said
Yeah.
if you just like cut out ice cream, that'll help out, but we might have to do more than that, over
Yeah.
time. And sometimes
Right.
people are going to be like, hey, that is much more realistic. That makes sense. I'm all in. Thank you for clearing that up.
Yeah.
Another individual will be like,
Right.
well, nah, I'll just go to a trainer that'll say yes. And that's
Right.
just the expectations of people that are out there. It's frustrating
Yeah.
sometimes, but that's just the way it is.
Yeah, I mean, it's asking them like, how badly do you want this and what are you willing to sacrifice for it? And let's be really honest about that because it's going to mean that, like I was talking about, you're not going to be able to maybe eat the same meals as your kids. You're not going to be able to, you're going to lose balance in all other areas of your life in service of this goal. And if that feels right for you, that's not my sort of like messaging. That's not like what feels like important for me as a trainer. But like if someone said, I want to hire you to help me do this thing, as long as it's healthy, I'm not gonna destroy them. I want them to be healthy, right? But I will support them to get as lean as they want to get. The reality is that once you start saying, listen, your relationship with your spouse might be affected because you're going to be grumpy as hell because you're hungry and because they're just going to want to go out to dinner with you and you can't do it. You're going to be fussy. You're going to be always thinking about food. Like, I need to be honest with you about what this looks like because people don't
Yeah.
talk about that. They just show you the before and the after.
Yeah, yeah,
They don't
yeah.
tell you all the psychological sort of trauma of essentially starving yourself, right?
Yeah, it's true.
So you tell them like, listen, that's what that actually takes, and it's a values conversation. If you value this, if this is really a huge value for you, you need to have this experience. Then this is what we'll have to do, right? And but I don't I and you as well, we're not preaching that that's not our value, and I'm not going to impose my values onto my clients. But I'm also like, if you want to work with that kind of a trainer, those trainers exist, but I am in service of the long term you. I'm not going to starve you for 6 months so I get you really tiny. And then I'm like, hey, you met your goal, go off into the world, and now you have no idea how to have a regular relationship with food. Your self esteem is totally destroyed. You have an eating disorder and you have no libido. Like, I've fucked you up in all of these ways so I could get you abs. I'm not interested in that. There are trainers who will do that though.
Yeah.
And you and we just have a different idea about what health is.
Yeah, and kind of on that same level because like I call it like a trainer identity where as just regular people start going down the road of
Hmm.
certification, basically getting exposed to knowledge about how the body works, knowledge about how the mind works, nutrition. We become kind of like more knowledgeable about, call it, the realities of things. And
Hmm.
there's a lot of different ways that fitness can kind of happen. And so an individual, as they're transitioning from being a fitness participant to a fitness professional, has to kind of then ask themselves, well, what kind of a trainer am I going to be? Am I going to be the trainer? Like,
Right.
either am I going to be a weight loss trainer, or am I going to be just helping people
Right.
with older individuals? Or,
Hmm.
do I want to apply myself ethically? Or do I want
Yeah.
to apply myself unethically? Like, there are plenty of
Right.
wonderful, ethical, knowledgeable trainers that don't
Hmm.
make as much money as
Hmm.
unethical, social media
Right.
trainers. So
Yes.
it's interesting as we have to kind of really come to terms with who do we want to and maybe not want to work with, either certain types of
Yeah.
people or certain types of goals, but also,
Right.
how ethical are we going to be? And there's plenty of opportunities for trainers to
Yeah.
convey themselves in an unethical way, and a lot of them are fine with it, and some are not. It's just kind of
Yeah.
interesting how we don't know that kind of going in. It's something that we have to have conversations
Right.
with ourselves about kind of over time.
Right. And the interesting thing is that, unethical trainers can get their clients results, right? Like if you
Yep.
work with someone off social media, they're totally unethical. They didn't individualize your program. They have you doing really unhealthy things that's messing up your relationship with food. You might see results, absolutely, because a caloric deficit is going to cause weight loss, like at the end of the day. The reality is that what's the cost? And so ethics to me is like, I'm not going to, like, the net sort of outcome of working with me should be positive, right?
Yeah.
And if giving you abs fucked up nine out of, the other 10 areas of your life, that to me is, it's not a net positive. It's negative in every other way except for now you have abs. And so that's why this is unethical, because it's like, what you have to sacrifice in order to do that, what you have to give up doesn't balance out, right? Doesn't, like, what you gain doesn't balance with what you had to give up to be able to get that.
So you're saying I should probably start being a more ethical trainer is what I should stop telling people just do
I think
tricep
you need to
extensions and I'll lose the fat in that area. I should avoid that.
I think that you need to start selling detox teas for a start.
Oh
And I think
yes.
that you need to stop just like convincing all of your clients that they need to get abs to be loved in the world. I mean, that would be a good start for sure.
That's right. They should all go on starvation diets and keto at the same time. That's the best way to do it. Just not eat
Oh
food.
God, keto.
Yeah, not eat food in the keto way.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Oh my gosh, Mark, like we could seriously talk forever. We had so many bullet points of things that we wanted to discuss, and I think maybe we got to two, if that. I'd love to have you back on if you're interested and kind of just keep diving through these philosophical questions together. I think it's helpful for people to kind of hear from a perspective of kind of, trainers talking about this and talking
Yeah,
about
totally.
what differentiates good trainers from bad trainers, what differentiates a truly healthy program. And I'm defining health not only in physical health, but we're talking about mental, psychological, spiritual. What defines a truly healthy program from one that isn't? And I would love to keep diving into this with you.
Yeah, I fully agree. I mean, you and I talk all the time, and I very much enjoy, thinking philosophically about what we do, as well
Yeah.
as kind of talk about, more formal things like the sciences. And the better through conversations like this that, non-trainers, just regular fitness participants can kind of understand what that world is like, they can just make much better decisions for themselves. Absolutely.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh, absolutely. Really quickly, I'd love for you to share just how people can find you and any services that are, that you're providing that you want to share.
Yeah, one of the best ways to kind of see whatever it is that I'm doing is through Instagram. My handle is trainer guy, and that's where like most of my either pictures or videos of either me exercising, knowledge drops about exercise and nutrition, or kind of seeing examples of doing different things is going to be. So that's probably the best way to see me. Instagram trainer guy. Yeah.
Awesome. And are you accepting clients right now, or you're really focused on kind of the continuing education piece and working as a, working with the curriculum for NPTI?
Yeah, I am. I am accepting clients, both live and virtual. Virtual for programming and stuff like that, but also for trainers that are looking for some level of mentorship. I get a lot of satisfaction out
Yes.
of helping people, discover their ability to help and change lives in just a faster way that ultimately that I did.
Yes, and I will say, so I have a lot of behavior analysts who are wanting to make the switch from autism service into fitness and health. And one way that I did that, and one way that is ethical to the BCBA field of, or, the BCBA ethics code, was to hire a mentor in this new field to make sure that I was competent when I did switch over. And I hired Mark to support me through that process. So any BCBAs who are interested in making the switch, Mark is a wonderful mentor who can help you kind of get a really good foundation of understanding so that you are competent in this field and you can potentially switch careers, which has been super meaningful and wonderful. So please reach out and find him. He's an awesome guy and just a wonderful person who's knowledgeable to have in your lives. All right, Mark. So we'll see you next time for a part two. And thanks for coming on.
Thank you for having me.